Welcome to Amazing Business Radio with best-selling author and customer service and business expert, Shep Hyken. Shep will talk with some of the smartest thinkers in business to help make you more successful in your professional and personal life. This is Amazing Business Radio with Shep Hyken.
Hello, everybody. It's Shep Hyken here. We're back with another episode of Amazing Business Radio, and this week we're going to be talking with Stephen Bear, the author of the book Stickology: How to Build Unbreakable Connections with Employees and Customers for Life. This guy has a great background in corporate America. He understands what it is to engage employees and how that drives the customer experience. Before we get into the interview, a couple of quick announcements, and if you've listened to the show, you know what they are. Real briefly, if you've got an amazing story that you want to share or a question you want to ask, reach out to me on any social channel. I am pretty much everywhere. If it is a question, use the hashtag AskShep. I'll answer the question right there in the social channel, perhaps on this show or in my newsletter, The Shepherd Letter, and you can subscribe to that by going to hyken.com, HYKEN.com, and it is free to subscribe. I promise you enjoy it. It's a tip every week along with a fun cartoon. I've now done almost 700 weekly cartoons over the years. And then, of course, there's my annual research. If you're interested in customer service stats, facts, and findings, just click on the research tab, download the research. You don't even need to subscribe to anything. It's not gated. You just click on it. It opens up, and it's yours, again, at no charge. All right, let's jump into talking with Stephen Bear. Stephen, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited you're here, and I'm very excited about your new book, Stickology, which just came out, and I'm just going to tell everybody listening right now, I'm looking at it, all this information. We're going to talk about what's in the book, but at the end of today, I don't care what you do. You don't have to be a CX leader. You can be if you're frontline talking to customers, sales, marketing, customer support, probably anybody else in the company as well. This is going to be a very good and important book for you, because one of the things that Stephen talks about in the book is the internal side. What happens inside an organization is going to be felt on the outside. So internal employee engagement is really, I think, you're fanning the fire for customer engagement. And so anyway, Stephen, I know about the book. I know a little bit about you. You've got a really interesting background with your experience with all these different companies like Atari and the game agency and GE. And, you're a very serious Six Sigma black belt, which when it comes to that type of thing, I don't know. I don't want to mess with you. A little bit more information about you. If we were going to be in an elevator and I notice we're both going to the same floor, it's number 65. You've got a minute or so to tell me what you do. Hey, what are you doing? What do you do for a living? What are you going up there for?
Well, it's funny you ask. No, at the end of the day, I'm really focused on human engagement. And you nailed it when you talked about the importance of both internal and external, and they're totally connected. My company, and certainly my focus for the last 30 years, has been helping optimize organizations around engaging your employees, engaging your customers, and looking at the intersection between those two.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that what it's about? I talk a lot about different things I write in my books, but one of the most important things I think I've ever written was this concept of fun inside a company. And fun is not about rah-rah, let's have a good time. It's an acronym for fulfillment, meaning you want to fulfill the employee experience. You want to exploit your employees for what they're good at. That's their uniqueness, F-U, and then N is what's next? Are we excited about it? And the whole idea came, and I know for some people that have listened to me, they're going to hear the same thing. I love the interview, and I did a bunch of interviews in this book, but one particular person, Brian Keeley, who was the CEO of Baptist Health South, the medical system, said, I want to create destination employment because people come here, they don't want to leave because they love it so much, and guess what happens? All of the patients and the family members, their customers, experience that sense of fulfillment and love for their job. And I think that's what you're talking about in Stickology. It's not just about getting customers to stick with you, it is about getting, and by the way, the subtitle is How to Build Unbreakable Connections with Employees and Customers for Life. So I think you're spot on.
Well, and the data shows it too, right? I can't take credit for this part, but if you look at the Great Places to Work reports, they talk about how the companies that really nailed this, they see some incredible trends. One, they see 8 times more revenue per employee than the average company. They see 1/3 the amount of turnover, and they see that these companies outpacing the S&P by 3.5 times. So it seems to me like a no-brainer to focus on this, because the companies they're the ones that are winning.
Yeah, and I'll go a step further. If you look at Glassdoor.com, rates the employee experience, gives employees the chance to rate their experience in companies. And then you look at all these, I don't know, we'll call it research or surveys, and mine included, that list the top companies that customers think provide the best experience. Guess what? There's this direct correlation to those that rate high on Glassdoor and those that rate high on all those, brand surveys. No doubt about it. Well, let's jump into this. Connection creates access, but engagement creates commitment. I love that. I almost call that the tagline of what you're doing. Let's start there.
Yeah, so I use this analogy. I look at connection, and I look at engagement, and I think about different adhesives, right? So I look at Velcro and I look at glue, and I really liken connection to Velcro, right? It's easy to put together, and it's fast, but it also starts to pull apart really easily, right? You really need that engagement. It's not just about connecting. It's not just about me meeting you, having that, that conversation. It's about building that trust. It's about building that relationship. It's about making that person feel seen and heard and empowered and valued. And that takes time. And so does glue, right? It takes time to bond. But when it does, it holds together. And so that is super relevant whether you're talking about a customer or whether you're talking about an employee, and in both cases, you want longevity.
Yep.
And so the companies that put in, and the managers that put in that work to build that bond, to build that relationship, to build that trust, those are the ones that keep their employees and keep their customers with them for a long time.
Yeah. And I like the analogy Velcro. Once you do put it on, and you have to work hard to put it on, what are you doing? Why are you creating something that's so easy to pull apart?
So
right?
true.
Just go straight to the glue and do it right the first time.
Yep. Measure twice, cut once, right? So,
something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the concepts you talk about in the book, or you can read about in the book, has to do with hyper-personalized experience still will sometimes leave a lack of an emotional connection with the customer. I don't know if I've said that correctly, but that's the gist of what I have.
No, you did. And in chapter 1, I talk about this. So I first of all, each chapter looks at 2 companies and tackles a particular topic and looks at how they're doing it. Sometimes they're both doing it incredibly well. Sometimes, they're doing it very differently. Sometimes one's nailing it and one's a miserable failure, right? So chapter 1 actually talks about 2 companies that are doing quite well, but very differently. So I'll give you an example. Shein, which is a Chinese clothing manufacturer that I can't think of any teenage child who's not purchasing from them every week, right? But
every week.
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, I know you did a double take on that. But they put out 6,000 new designs every day, right? Really? So let that sink in. 6,000 new designs every day. It's all built on algorithms. They are shipping all around the globe. They're gigantic. They're the company that, a lot of people don't even know maybe our generation doesn't know the name of. But the reality is that...
What do you mean our generation doesn't know? I know what you mean.
Well, I'm saying, those of us in our 30s, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. There you go.
But my daughter will, order from them on a regular basis, and she'll order for them because it's easy, it's fast. They know her design, styles in some cases before she even knows them, right? Because they're tracking what she's looking at elsewhere, right? And by the way, they're also, I shouldn't say this, but they're ripping off other designs on the fly, and that's how they're doing it. But they're not building an emotional connection.
By the way, I know what you're saying by ripping off designs. It's interesting. I have a friend in the shoe business, and I say, how can you make a shoe like that? It looks exactly like whatever famous brand. He goes, there's no copyright or patent on the look of a shoe. However, if I designed a new sole or something that could be patented, nobody better use that. So, right. It's tough. The designers, what they want to do is come out with something first.
Yep. Right. But look, they are riding the coattails of other great designers out there, and they are wizards when it comes to online algorithms and making sure that they're reaching the right people at the right time with the right selections. So
there was another example. You had a different company doing it a totally different way.
So another company doing it a totally different way, I contrast them to something like Life is Good, which is a brand that I've been buying from for 20 years. Now, I buy maybe once a year. I'll
And
buy
what do
a
they
shirt.
sell?
They sell shirts, they sell hats, they sell apparel. But really what they're selling is a statement of optimism. Life is good. Everything that they have, all their stuff, talk about how kindness is free. They talk about, aspirational things that you want to do. It's a positive, good feeling organization, company. You also know, like some of the other great brands out there that take some of their profits, they put towards good causes. They're very transparent about that. But their whole thing is optimism and tapping into that. And I want to be optimistic. I want to feel good. I want to feel good about what I'm wearing, where my money's going, how it's helping. Two very different things, right? Both companies growing, but I have a connection to that brand. I don't know that in 10 years from now, my daughter will have a connection to Shein. Right? It's convenient, it's available, but it's not building that bond.
Yeah. And to that point, I think it's important to point out that certain brands wonder, boy, we're losing all of our customers. That's because they're aging out of whatever it is you're selling. And then some of these brands, unfortunately, don't do an effective job of bringing in the new ones that are in the demographic they're trying to reach. So, maybe they've been focused on millennials. Millennials grow out, and now they've got these Gen Zs that they want to bring into the fold that they haven't quite been effective at doing. I think that's what you're referring to. So when I think of personalization, I think of knowing your customers so well that you can deliver an experience that feels like you know who they are, their buying patterns, everything about them, so you can communicate. Thanks for being a great customer. By the way, I noticed you love this logo, Life is Great or Life is Good on your T-shirts. We got some new colors. Would you be interested? I mean, it's like when I go on Amazon and I welcome back, Shep. Last time you looked at this, you still, or Netflix, they choose the movies that I like. That to me is a great form of personalization, but I also realize there's a computer behind making that happen.
There is, and I'll ask you a question. You might regularly watch your movies or TV via Netflix, but I guess my question for you is, do you also watch on Hulu? Do you also watch on Paramount? Do you also watch on Disney? Do you also watch on Prime? I mean, my point is that they haven't built a relationship with you that you say, this is my place. This is the place that I can't be without. And in many cases, I should say.
Yep. Well, I'm very fortunate in that I pay for 2 or 3 of those, not all that you mentioned.
Yeah.
But if I had and was forced to choose just one, I'm going to choose the one that seems to make the best recommendations for me, or that I feel that has the programming I like, and then starts to make me feel connected by them knowing who I am. Let's jump to a new topic, because I know we got a little bit of time left here. The next one, almost so much in alignment with what you say, but when I first started writing about this topic, it was such a competitive advantage, and that is the concept of convenience. Customers return out of habit when things are easy. One of my ideas was, if you've got a great experience, what elevates the experience is convenience. People don't want to leave when they have a great experience, but when you can make it easier, if you're a competitor and make it easier, you might be able to steal someone away. If you offered both the great experience and the convenient experience, great meaning service and the way you connect with them, I think that's still a very strong competitive advantage. But before COVID, right before COVID and the pandemic, I wrote that book just about a year or two before that, and it truly was a competitive differentiator. Now, certain restaurants would deliver for free pizza, or my favorite Chinese restaurants would deliver for free. None of them deliver for free anymore. It's always built into the price, or there's an obvious add-on to the convenience fee of convenience. But it became an expectation that people then eventually would pay for. That's what COVID did, because everybody had to become more convenient. So now let's talk about that. They stay advocates only when the relationship feels human and values-driven, and that's the point. Do that plus convenience, you've got a winning combination.
Yeah. So I talk about this. I talk about this in a few chapters, but one of the ones that really hits home to me is when I think about grocery stores, right? I think about the Instacarts, I think about the big chains, and then I think about the places that are a little smaller, more personal. Even if they're chains like a Trader Joe's, that might be much more of an experience because you're relating to the people there as opposed to just going through the motions of purchasing, right? And so, when you think about some of those first ones I talked about, that first category, the Instacarts, the behemoth organizations, They have loyalty programs, they have apps, they have, everything to make it as convenient for you as possible. But I don't know that anyone would say, I have a real, in my heart, a place for Kroger's, right? Probably not. It is probably one of the most convenient. It has apps, it has loyalty, it has selection, it has
probably right down the street
everywhere you could be,
yeah.
right? But the difference between that and a Trader Joe's, I'm going to use Trader Joe's, is that at Trader Joe's, their people are empowered to really stop anything they're doing, walk you to any aisle, open up boxes for you, let you sample stuff. I mean, they have a smile on their face nonstop. They're wearing Hawaiian gear. It's an experience. And so, you may not quite have all the benefits at your fingertips that those big organizations have, but you have a better experience and maybe a better affiliation. If you can get the combination, that's where the gold is, right? But that's really hard.
So you create that experience and then you somehow make it easy. I got to tell you, and a side note here, it doesn't have much to do with what we're talking about, but I hired one of my assistants years ago. Actually, thanks to the pandemic, everybody moved on and didn't come back to the office, she being one of them, but she had never had any admin experience whatsoever. Super smart, went to college. You can tell this girl was smart. She was working at Trader Joe's, and I somehow wooed her away to come and work for me. And somebody said, she worked at Trader Joe's. I go, that's the point. She worked at Trader Joe's. She knows how to deliver the experience. She's smiling. She's engaging. I mean, on Halloween, she put on a bald thing to make herself look like me. And she came in. That was her costume. Nobody's ever done that.
But you nailed it. That's the experience, right? That getting someone who really understands how to connect with people, that takes you 10 times further, by the way, than having everything conveniently available to you. And I'll tell you, it's not just in, to what I'm saying, it's in the data too. Trader Joe's is outpacing all their competitors from a profitability standpoint. They have more than, obviously they're smaller, but if you look percentage-wise to their revenue, they have between 2 and 10 times the profitability of all their competitors.
Wow.
So, it works. It's not just a good feel, it's a business good too as well.
Yeah. So we're talking two separate things here. The whole idea of being easy, and just being easy may not be enough today, but when you add that personal connection and make it easy, and by the way, add the personal connection and the great service experience and don't make it easy, you still have a chance at getting somebody to come back. But our studies, every year we do research, and our recent research says that convenience is even more important than friendly service. But what if you did both? I mean, It's great. All right, so we're going to talk about engagement and the emotional investment that you can create with people. And it's not about, I'm just going to read my line that I have here. Engagement is emotional investment, not interaction volume. And I know so many companies are fixated on metrics that are important to what they claim success is. If you've got a website or you put out some type of marketing piece, and how many views did you get? How many clicks did you get? And then you use the word specifically transaction, and transaction to me is a finite, almost, it starts and ends.
Yeah.
Then what's next? Another transaction, or maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think that if we think about any of the brands that we experience, I think they probably fall into 3 categories. I think they fall into the ones that we really forgotten about. They're like, oh yeah, I did buy something there once. Okay, so that's not where you want to be. The next one is, I engage with them, but their service is horrible, or boy, are they nasty, or their selection is terrible. That's not where you want to be. Where you want to be is, they reached me. I had an incredible experience there. The service was incredible. The personality was incredible. The employee that you just talked about, who used to be at Trader Joe's, that was incredible. That's the experience economy that I think every company should be striving for, right? Yep. Because when someone remembers that, not only do they talk, right? People are going to talk whether they love something or hate something. But you want someone to talk when they love something, because they're going to tell 10, 15, 20 friends. And that experience is not only going to stick with them, but it's going to be really spread to the world on your behalf by true advocates. That's what every brand wants.
Yeah. My favorite song, if I had to choose, well, it's my walk-on music when I do a speech, is the chorus. Let's give them something to talk about, right? That's what we want to do. Now, we want them to talk about something good. Bonnie Raitt wrote that song, was a big hit, won the Grammy and all that, and she was going to talk about love, but don't we want our customers to love us? All right, I know we're getting close to time here. I want to talk about the engagement virtuous cycle, which shows what we talked about first part of our conversation, how the employee experience drives and shapes the customer experience.
Yeah, they are more interlocked than people realize, right? And so the companies that invest in their people, the companies that, I use an example of back to the beginning of my career when I worked in the video game space. I worked on a brand, Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah,
So,
who doesn't know that?
Yeah, well, many people think right, D&D, and many people think of it as rolling dice in your basement, and yes, it is that, but it's a lot more than that, and it really falls into three different pillars, right? One is exploration, right? Encouraging people to venture out and explore and experiment and try stuff, right? The second one is social interaction, negotiating and really collaborating and working with each other, and then the last one is overcoming obstacles and stepping out there and try to figure out how do you solve problems. And the companies that focus on their employees, and they really take those same three pillars. We want you to experiment. We want you to really engage with each other. We want you to work together to make this place better. And by the way, we're going to give you the keys to the kingdom to do that. We trust you. When the companies that do that, the next thing on the cycle is their employees are outpacing their competitors. And their customers are seeing that. And they're typically having a really good experience because they're seeing that these people are passionate about it. And that is something that really flows right into the customer experience. And the customers often will spend more money. They'll stay with you longer. That gets pushed right back into investing in your employees, investing in the company. It's an ongoing cycle. And when you take a shortcut and you forget about that first part, typically you don't build that relationship with your employees. You don't build that relationship with your customers. And quite honestly, it's not a shortcut worth taking.
Yeah. By the way, the keys to the kingdom idea, giving the employees the keys, there's keys to certain rooms in the kingdom.
Fair
Maybe
enough.
not every room. And
Not
there's
every
a
room.
moat around the castle, by the way. So there is a line in the sand we don't want to cross. But when you teach and train employees how far they can go, and like if they want to try something and it worked and they share that with the supervisor should do that every time. We're going to share that with the rest of the team so they know that they can do it, each time giving everybody a little bit of education, a little bit more room, and a little bit, more definitive line in the sand, but sometimes that line gets further and further out, which is what we're trying to achieve. I'm going to sum up this short little topic by saying disengaged teams, which is the opposite of what you're talking about, create transactional experiences, going back to the word we used earlier. Yes. The transaction is just a start and a finish, versus what I call an interaction, which is ongoing experiences that continue. So no matter how strong your brand promise is, boy, you need to get your employees engaged. We're out of time, so I'm going to ask you my final question. This is a great book and again, I want to say specifically the title of the book is Stickology, with the subtitle, I love it, How to Build Unbreakable Connections with Employees and Customers for Life. Share with us one final nugget that's going to want to make us go out and buy that book today.
All right. Well, when I was writing this book, I looked at it and I said, I can tell you lots of theory. I can tell you my point of view, which no one cares about. Or I can really look at what companies are doing and what we can learn from it. So I looked at 30 different companies. I built out 30 different case studies, Harvard Business School-like case studies. And within each one, I compared them. I showed you where they're doing well, where they're failing, and then I gave you worksheets on how you can apply that to your business. And with each chapter, I allowed you to basically say, all right, let's go through some exercises as an individual, as a team, and let's figure out how we can make our organization more successful. I really encourage you to check it out.
Yeah, so Stickology is not just a book to read, it's a book to use. It's a book to sit down with your team and go through the exercises and take this knowledge from Stephen Bear and turn it into something that makes more sense for you, your customers, and your bottom line. Stephen, thanks for being on Amazing Business Radio. This is why we call it that. This was an amazing interview. Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much, Shep. I really appreciate your time and appreciate your interest.
My pleasure, my pleasure. All right, everybody, that wraps it up. Another episode of Amazing Business Radio, and we will be back next week with another interview. And until that time, I'm here to tell you to always be amazing.